Hi, Andreas. Nice to see you.
Hi, Claus.
And happy to have you on board Journey with C.A.R.E, the session today, which is live.
Thank
So
you.
it's going to be a conversation between you and I. And we are going to talk about part of the Safety Steps 24 Masterclass. And we're going to talk about one part of the Trinity model, which involves health management, both from a mental and physical perspective. So this is going to be the topic for today.
Perfect.
So thanks for joining. Let's talk about the human nature of resistance. So, you and I have talked about it literally takes 66 days for a human to change behavior.
Yes.
Why is that? Can you kind of elaborate and explain that to the audience, why that is?
Why it takes so long for a person to change?
Yes.
So, and this is basically just one habit. So it takes 66 days to change one habit, and then there's the next habit and the next one after that. Um, Generally, it's very difficult for people to change if there's not some kind of motivation, which is pain, usually. Pain really motivates people to change because they want to go away from pain towards pleasure. And change for most people is just something that they don't really want to do, which is human nature, unless they have to do it. And this having to do it is usually the experiencing this pain. That pain motivates you to move away from wherever you are onto wherever you want to go. And this is what makes it hard because there needs to be some sort of initiation. Usually people lack the initiation and then they also lack the throughput to actually stick with something for long enough. For example, 66 days. Yeah, but there's a lot of facets to why people have a hard time
So,
changing.
so now I started the session with a question, and then the audience might think, who the heck is Andreas and why does he know about that? So, can you kind of explain to people in the audience what kind of background you have, what you're doing? Because I think that's important for people to understand why this is a very integral part of the Safety Steps 24 Masterclass.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, give us a little bit of your background.
Of course, I'm a psychologist and sports scientist. The last couple of years, I've been working with busy professionals, managers, entrepreneurs, busy people in general to increase their fitness and their health during a very busy day, right? So it's a very holistic approach that I take, which is nutrition, accountability, motivation, sports as well, movement. Um, and change overall, like changing your habits, changing who you are, becoming more sportive rather than just doing sports. Myself, I've helped hundreds of people in this domain. I've started as a strength and conditioning coach in the Olympic Center, so I was always in performance, but I moved from physical performance with athletes onto, let's say, mental performers who are my clients now.
Okay. So, very interesting background, and I think that's also why you fit so nicely into the master class.
Thank you.
And this is also how you and I initially met. Yeah, it seems
True.
yesterday, but in real time, it's quite some months ago, to be
Yes.
honest. So, why do you think that leaders are so afraid of changing their own behavior?
I think there's a couple of things. Usually, people consciously or subconsciously think that it's going to be a lot of effort, and they are already so busy. And to add something on top of what they're already doing just seems out of this world. It's just too much for them. So they'd rather not handle it at all, only if they really, really have to. So this is one thing, the busy schedules overall. People don't really know where to start. Speaking of nutrition, speaking of health, they're like, okay, there's 100 things I can do, and everybody says something different. So who's right? So there's a feeling of overwhelm, and there's a feeling of insecurity. But then there's also many people try to change and they failed, and then they lose hope that they can actually achieve those things, or it's just too painful for them, so they rather just bury it and procrastinate it overall. They rather not start handling it again.
Okay. So when you look at the masterclass and when we talk about culture change in general,
Yes.
Our philosophy is that if you haven't undergone the pain of change as an individual who is leading others, who are you to tell others how to change their behavior? And I think in essence, if you look at some of the reports that we have looked into, that could be McKinsey or Forbes, who kind of say that almost 2/3 of every organization that literally try to make a culture change, they fail. They fail because people simply have nothing to show for.
Yes.
So can you kind of go through the phases with the people that you kind of engage with where they, kind of struggle, where you then need to help them get over a hurdle, and what kind of tricks that you can then provide people, which is also going to be some of the things that people will learn in more details when they get on the masterclass. But
Yes.
just to give the audience a little bit of a flavor of kind of the personal inner resistance to change that makes it very difficult.
Right. So many people believe that it takes a lot of discipline to change. And it should require some discipline, let's say 20%, but it shouldn't be more than that. If it's a smart program overall, 80% of the program should be very intuitive and should be, your busy schedule should be able to handle this new program. So what we do, and it's a technique we use, it's called habit stacking. So we really do baby steps, which is like a 1% increase in something per week, for example, which if you do that weekly, every week, 52 weeks of the year, in 1 year, you're going to be a completely changed person. But people start with too much at once, and then they are overwhelmed and they fail, or it's just after 3 weeks they are completely burned out from any kind of program. And this is what we do completely differently. So if you haven't jogged for 10 years, we're not gonna bring you into a marathon within the next 30 days, right? We're gonna look at your nutrition first. We're gonna look at the biggest levers for your fitness and health. And once this is sorted, we're gonna move on to the next thing. So this way you're gonna be motivated, you're gonna have the first basic habits already in check, and then you can do more advanced things. So this is what we really do, so that the people don't feel like they're overwhelmed. People don't feel like, people want to feel motivated. They want to feel a sense of achievement in what they're doing. Otherwise, it's not fun. So we're looking for a program that's fun, where you feel like, oh, I can do that. There's a competency that you're gaining. This is what we're looking for, especially in the beginning.
So let's take some of the things that you actually talked about, which I find very interesting, but also very telling, that people want to do too much. So if you transfer that into the business context of what we're trying to do in the masterclass, is that human nature that you want to fix the world, but in essence, you should fix your own backyard and then start with that? It's kind of like that, what the audience have to kind of relate to here?
Well, it is I mean, Homo sapiens, we do take the road of least resistance to get somewhere. And if we don't really feel there's a problem, we're not going to tackle it, or we're going to kind of tackle it. Now, many people, especially performers, they have this all or nothing mentality, where like, okay, I'm either going to do it right 100%, or I'm not going to do it at all. And then they start a diet, they do it for 3 weeks, then they eat one Snickers, and then they're like, oh, now I don't need to diet anymore. I'm like, no, just ate a Snickers. You can still keep on dieting. So I think it's not with everybody, but it's definitely with the target group and with people who are very successful because they have this constant on switch, this all or nothing thing, and in their business it's all the time. That's why maybe it's discouraging to begin a change and realize, oh, it's harder than I thought by myself, or I can't do it by myself, or it takes longer than expected, and then they just leave it there.
So it's very interesting, because I think that's where, when we looked at again some of the the historical information that we can find on why organizations fail, it's very clear that it's this 100% or nothing.
Right.
So 80% or 20% isn't good enough. But what people tend to forget is that a 20% improvement is still an improvement. It's not the 100%, but it's still an improvement. It's
Absolutely.
a smaller improvement, but it kind of built. So when we talk about this 66 days of change, is it correct to assume that the individual is going to constantly feel this, I wouldn't call it pain, but this inner voice telling you that, it isn't really where I want to be, but I don't kind of see the change that I am having? And how do you encourage people to say that even small steps is an improvement? You may not see it, but others does. So how do you communicate that from a psychological perspective?
We need to constantly adjust expectations, because someone who is striving in his business and he demands 100% from himself, sometimes doesn't want to do only 5 or 10% in some other domain, right? In like fitness, for example. But you cannot be 100% in all the buckets of life, like finance, family, friends, social life, health. But we need to employees, right? We need to reach a level in all these buckets where, first of all, we are happy and we are healthy, because that's just the base for everything else. Like if we're not happy, we're not healthy, we cannot perform. And adjusting expectations, really. So many people are in this realm, they used to be much fitter than they are today, and they're 45, but also when they're 25 they were fitter, but they didn't have like 3 kids and 200 employees, right? It's just different. And adjusting that expectation and saying, listen, you can do very efficient stuff with just 60 minutes of your time per week and be super healthy and performant and sleep well and just be fresh all the time. And if you want more than this, you're going to have to sacrifice other things, but probably it doesn't make sense for you. So really looking at the goals of each person as an individual or as a company and seeing where we want to go, adjusting expectations, and then creating a realistic program that people can actually implement is, I think, more satisfying than trying to do 100% everywhere, which is just not realistic, right? But people start very motivated and then they see it wasn't realistic and then they are demotivated again.
Okay, so when you look at the masterclass and this Trinity model that we have built between culture change,
yes,
the data analytics, understanding where you need to go and focus. So where is it that you kind of need to find your priorities and make sure you understand exactly what you want to fix, and then link that to the personal, mental, and physical well-being. So how do you see that in a context where you're trying to actually do what you explained, that you need to make very deliberate choices personally?
Right. I mean, I think leadership is about leading yourself first. If you're standing in front of people and you demand something from them that you yourself are not doing, it's just fake. If you want them to be healthy, to be less sick, to have more performance, to be safe, to have energy, to have a positive impact on their surroundings, on their co-workers, how can you demand those things and you don't do them? It starts, this change, also cultural change, it starts with yourself. You have to, change is always from the inside out. You first change in here, and then you portray your inside out, and you influence people in a positive way, but you can also do it in a negative way if you don't do it right. So I think this is where I see the big connection, really people taking responsibility for themselves and then transmitting this energy and the change onto their coworkers and employees.
So let's talk about, I would say, the mental and physical aspects of a human being.
Right.
So when you get older and you really, we talked about, 3 kids, you have 200 employees,
Right.
you don't have time. So if you don't take care of yourselves, what's physically happening to you? So what kind of deficits are you going to have as an individual that could literally put you in danger, not only from a personal perspective, but also in a work context? Can you talk about that as well?
Of course, yeah. There's many aspects, because you cannot really say, okay, this is the mental health and it's by itself, and this is the physical health and it's by itself. These things are interconnected. You cannot separate them. You cannot be heavily overweight and mentally, emotionally really love yourself and be like, oh, this is a great situation I'm in. It's just not going to happen. And people who do that, it's harsh to say, but it's a lie. People lie to themselves all the time. We do it. We just do it as humans. So as you are aging, a lot of things are happening, aside of your metabolism just getting slower and your genes splitting slower than they used to. So the regeneration in your body is just slower than it used to be. Even at 50 years of age, you have 70 to 80% of your capabilities, pulmonary capabilities, heart capabilities that you used to have when you were 30, just naturally, right? So things go down. You start to atrophy. So you start losing muscle if you don't do anything against it, right? That's a big if, because many people unfortunately don't. So what are the implications really? So there's different kind of implications. First of all, the big implication is your BMI, so your body mass index, above 25. If it is, you're actually increasing your mortality rate. So the statistical, let's say, probability of you dying sooner than you should. If your body mass index is above 30, we're talking about statistically losing 14 years of your life. 14, 4, which means 7 years you die earlier than you used to on average. That's not a total number, that's on average. And 7 years you spend them heavily sick. We're not talking like a cough, and knock on wood, we're talking like disease on average. So some people have more than that, others have less, but these are some big numbers. These are sick days increase by like 30, 40%. It's an impact on the business, like it's an impact on the family, it impacts just everybody. So this is the first thing. If you are overweight, and that is by definition body mass index above 25%, and obesity body mass index above 30%. The next thing is, even if your body mass index is normal, so under 25 and above 22.5, let's say, so you also don't want to be underweight. You also don't want to be overweight. Both is very unhealthy. But let's say you have the body mass index in check, but you're not exercising, you're not moving, you're not physically strong. Your muscles are going to atrophy. You are losing your physical capabilities. And with that, you're going to have cognitive effects, which are negative. You're going to be thinking slower. You're not going to be able to catch up with your kids when they're like, I don't know, 10, and they want to play with you, and you're like, oh, I used to be able to do that. You're going to be self-conscious about everyday movements, like trying to, like something drops off the table and you want to pick it up. And this is not going to get better. right? It's not getting easier. Above 55, above 60, 65, if you're not doing anything, you're just speeding up the process of slowly dying. It sounds really bad, but it actually is bad. So this is just the physical part. Now, the mental part, I said one thing, which is the cognitive aspect. So moving and exercising is going to make you more performant, and it's going to have an impact on your brain in a positive way. You're going to be able to think faster, longer. It's going to decrease your probability for dementia, for example, and many other diseases. But just to name one, which is in the mental realm. And let's be honest, who feels great about themselves if they can't move freely? It's very different to know that I can jump above this wall, I can run after this bus, I can play with my kids, I can swim in the ocean. It's just, even I'm 65, I can enjoy life as I could with 50, as I could with 35. It's just so impactful, I think, for the human life.
So if you take that into the business context, there's a couple of things that I want to highlight here. We talk about helping people that literally are facing quality problems and EHS problems.
Yes.
And if people mentally are not really at their best, it means that they are slower in making a choice, a decision.
Absolutely.
And then literally that puts them at risk, right? And also from a leader perspective, you also going to be slower in making decisions.
Absolutely.
So what we are trying to do here is really combining that portion into trying to help organization actually drive change. Because our philosophy is that as a leader, you cannot change anybody if you haven't undergone the pain of changing yourself. And by doing that, you're also getting capabilities of how to very quickly react to what you have in front of you and then steer, go in a different direction. Because again, nobody's perfect. And humans, as you have alluded to, have one basic flaw. We are born lazy. We are resistant to, no, but we are resistant to change, right?
Essentially, we are mammals, yeah. So,
Yeah. So, so how do you see that if you take, let's talk about, I know it's maybe a bit off, but I think it's important for people to just relate to this very new approach of driving culture change also with your insight. Because when you work with athletes, how picky are they when they are kind of looking at their performance? You know,
right.
how do they mentally kind of look at getting this, I would say, a quarter of a percentage point increase in their performance in order to be better than, the competitors? So what's driving them?
Right. So, well, I'm taking a couple of notes because it's interesting, and I want to touch on before I jump into that. I want to touch on one point. If we're talking about business and business owners and performance, just take sick leaves. Like just in Germany, the average employee takes like 15 days of sick leave per year. That's average. So there's people who do much more than that. That's 3 weeks of them missing. And we're not taking into account, so as a business owner, I already have all those weeks because I am a business owner. I have all those weeks where my employee is off anyway. So there's Easter, there's so many holidays. And on top of that, there's another 3 weeks of forced holiday for the employee where he can't even take off because he's sick, because his immune system is down. Right. So this obviously negatively impacts the business in a direct way. It's very costly if every one of your employees is missing like 8% per year, 8 to 10% of the actual working time, which is crazy. It's a big number. These are huge numbers. It's an impact on the overall, on the culture, because somebody else had the job still needs to be done. Like, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Is it the business owner? Is it the other employees? Is it like somebody has to do it? So talking about optimization of percentiles, we're talking about making people healthier and less prone to being sick. I mean, just one thing, just maybe you can share like how many times you've been sick the last 1.5 years. I'm taking this now
One,
because we exactly
one, one time.
right.
But that was also it hit me. I would say the flu hit me hard, but that's it. So literally, you and I talked about it. Say, hey, how often have you been sick? And we looked and say that was literally the first time that we
That's
can
the only
recall in
time.
all the time that we have known each other.
Yes, yeah, and you just became 60, and that's like a great number.
Yeah.
And you not missing out on your trainings and being so healthy and fitter than now, right? You weren't like this before, but now
No,
you are. Which it's just a big accomplishment, and it's great to see that you're basically never sick. So sorry for that. I just wanted to touch on that
no,
because
no, fine, fine.
it's really fascinating. And so how athletes perform, how athletes approach optimization. So um, for every athlete, it's very important to have a coach, for the coach to actually tell them what to optimize for. Now, athletes are very similar to entrepreneurs because they want to do they want to be perfect. They have this all or nothing mentality as well,
Mhm.
and they're making money with their body, so it's really everything for them. So they really get the physical performance and also the recovery thing onto the next level. They ask all the questions. They really want the lemon completely squeezed. But what do what do you mean exactly? Like, what should I elaborate on more there?
You kind of touched on the point that I literally wanted you to kind of have because you made the magic word coach. We call ourselves facilitators, but
Right,
it is really important when you go through these 66 days of change that you understand that you cannot do this alone. You can try that, but there is a very, very high likelihood that you're going to fail. So if you have nobody who is literally on the goalpost for you to say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing it?
right,
Are you sure you want to do it like that? Or have you thought of other ways of doing that? And I think if you take that into the business context, and then you have a lot of leaders that want to drive culture change, how do you do that? You have them explain to others how to go and do it.
right.
But if I look at my military career, if you are in a combat situation and you don't take the lead, nobody's going to follow you. So
Yeah,
you need to be the one kind of driving the others to do what you expect them to go do. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to do anything other than just look at an idiot running in front of them. Uh, and you don't want to do that. So you know, you said the magic words, which is the coach, and I think this is also what we're trying to help people in the masterclass with, is
yes,
really how do I build a facilitator uh, coaching relationship in my organization with somebody or multiple people in order to make sure that we actually drive change to the point where it actually is going to be successful, because I think this is where many organizations fail. And if you take that into the athletes world, I think that to me is a very clear testament of why they are so successful. Wouldn't you agree?
absolutely, yes. And I don't think it's smart to do anything like this without a coach or a facilitator
No.
because the real constraint is time. There's much more time constraint than there is money constraint.
Yeah.
And why would you go and try something by yourself if there's people who've done that already before you and they can just shrink down all this knowledge, which you and I, we needed decades to gather all this knowledge that we have that made us experts, and we can deliver it in such a small amount of time that now that someone can learn it in a couple of weeks with the most important things at least. why would someone try and be an expert in everything by themselves? It's just not smart, and I don't think that makes sense for any kind of business to operate, or any individual, honestly, to operate that way. If, like, in the sports realm, this would be absolutely ridiculous. There's no Olympian standing on the podium by themselves and not having a coach. Like, this just doesn't exist.
No.
Me, I don't write my own training plans. I have people to do that for me because I don't want to have that. I do it for my clients, yes, but so it makes it much easier to have a facilitator next to you to hold you accountable. Accountability is a big one in any change. Any change, you need that tough love to advance. You
Yeah.
do need that, especially as a successful manager. You do need that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you kind of led that into the next topic, and I think that's an important one. Now we have a number of people online who are maybe wondering, I'm not going to go into this masterclass. They're going to drive me crazy. I don't want to be a new physical monster. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be too tricky.
Right.
So can you just explain, I think the survey that you and I have literally created, can you explain to the audience that this is actually a way of helping them with small steps, and more importantly also that they are the ones making the decisions on what they want to change. We are not the ones deciding that. So if you can talk about that.
Yeah, I think a facilitator is not going to introduce their own goals. Like, I don't introduce my own goals for my clients. My clients tell me their goals, and then I adjust expectations with them, and then I tell them, okay, you're going to need this and that. Most people don't want to be hyper fit. They just want to feel well, move well, and be performant, and just have energy, like have great amount of energy. And you really don't need a lot of time. I mean, you can vouch for that. You don't need a lot of time in the week as a time investment. You just need to be efficient and have a good flexible program that you can fit into your everyday routine. So maybe like 60 to 90-minute time investment throughout the whole week is more than enough to make you perform at a very, very high level physically, but through that also mentally. That's more than enough. Anyone who's seeking to become an Olympian or a bodybuilder, I don't think they're here in this live. And this is also not our goal to make you the next Arnold. So I don't think that anybody is going to jump to that conclusion now anymore.
So when we talk about the master class, should people be afraid that it's not going to be fun?
I
Or
think
what's your take on it?
I've never experienced a team like this with so many experts from different realms that create a great energy where it can't be fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The preparation for me was already a lot of fun, and just networking with people while learning in a playful way, let's say, but also with the end goal in mind, and then with the accountability part with it is I think it's fantastic. I don't think and it's going to be a welcome change from the day-to-day stuff, which also adds into the day-to-day stuff. So I'm not worried about the thing not being fun. No.
Okay. So let's talk about the coaches, because I think facilitators, whatever we want to call ourselves.
Yes.
So what kind of expectations do you have towards them when it comes to being part of a masterclass?
For myself, I already I don't really go in with expectations. I just enjoy the expertise of the other facilitators. I really do, because there's some things that are just not of my nature. For example, data. I'm very interested in it, and it's very important for me as a business owner.
Yeah.
And culture. But we have a small business, so I love to hear the different angles on the same topic. And there's so many different experts, people like you who've worked many years in the energy sector, then in the health sector in different ways, then me, which is a more sports scientific angle. So it's just a very good, very healthy mix, I believe.
Okay. So I think my expectation, of course, to us as a team is that wherever the participants go, we go as well. So it also
Okay.
means that, we have to be part of whatever we put in front of our team, right? So it
Right.
comes back to you kind of show for yourself what you expect of others, right? So, and I think that's the whole point of, the survey questions that the participants will get up front, where they kind of make the choices of where they want to change a personal behavior and also where they want to change a business behavior, because I think those are two very critical elements for anybody participating in the master classes. They are the ones making the decisions, and everybody is going to go through that journey with them. And then to your point, as well as we facilitators, coaches have different backgrounds. You're going to have a broad mix of people in the masterclass who also comes with very different backgrounds. That makes it even more interesting. And then everybody can learn. We learn every day as human beings, regardless where you sit in an organization. And by the way, you never get too old to learn. I think
Right.
that is something that is also important. So I think that's what I think I'm looking forward to with this part. Is there anything that you want to give the audience as kind of I wouldn't call it you should absolutely do it, but kind of, what is it that you can actually help these individuals do in a very simple and smart way within the time frame that we have,
Right.
in order to kind of get people to say, hey, I want to be part of this?
So I think what you just said is really leading by example. How I got to know the facilitators, I already know that we're all going to lead by example and be accountable for our own actions, and also hold the participants accountable, definitely. Now, for the masterclass itself, I think it's like a buffet what we are offering, and anybody can really take out whatever they need most from that buffet. So some people are going to find the health aspect or the safety aspect in general more appealing than the data aspect, or they're going to have a bigger need there, right? So they can take more from that for themselves, or for their whole team, or for their whole organization. That's why it's such a great thing to network, first of all, in between the participants, which you never sit in a room full of smart people and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I really regret that. This is just not happening. It's something that really gives you energy, and you come out with so many learnings, and you're like, I never thought about that, or I never thought about this thing in that way. And then you go home and you try to integrate what you've learned. And the great thing is the people don't have to integrate themselves. We're still there in the process. While they integrate, we still communicate with them. We're not like, here, take it and have fun, right? It is a master class. It is like a continuum where we set certain expectations and goals, and then we stay with them until they are achieved.
But I think that's the important part is, and that's also why when you look at the masterclass, what we've done is literally kind of stretch it over a long period of time, because
Right.
if the average change is 66 days,
Right.
because you have all of the things that we've talked about today, the human resistance, the 100% or nothing, or, I'm not going to settle with 1% improvement, which literally is what we're trying to do. But actually giving people those small wins is actually going to make a significant change. And I think that's really the beauty of the masterclass, is that you have time to take in, absorb, analyze, validate, try out, go back, validate, get feedback, and more importantly, have somebody that's going to hold you accountable. Because we're back to the athlete coach So there is somebody that's going to be there to make sure that people actually do what they have said they want to do. So they're not going to go away without having tried this transformational approach over a longer period of time, where you're going to have setbacks, but you're also going to have, I'd say, the positive aspects of where you see things are actually now working. And then you get to another point where you may have a new setback, but then you get help, and then you get another improvement, and so forth, until you get to a point where you move away from what I call brain memory into muscle memory. So,
Right.
you and I have talked about it a lot. Why do I do my physical trainings? For me, it's more annoying. So when I was sick, I can use that as an example. You and I talked about, can I do my training, or should I do less? And I hated myself for not being able to do it, because my body wanted to do it, but you just need to be careful, right? So I think this is where you have to then also find the middle ground, where if you just have changed the habit, you're going to do it. And also, if you take that into a business context, if you have certain elements that you do every day in order to prepare yourself to do the things that you need to do right the first time, your body is actually going to stop you if you kind of run into a situation where you are not faced with the normality. So your body is going to stop you and give your brain time to actually absorb what you have in front of you. So this is the process that we are going through masterclass.
You said something very nice. So I really, obviously, I do believe in coaching a lot. I do believe in having a partner where you go through this transformation, any kind of transformation, doesn't matter what it is, with that person, and you create feedback loops. So something doesn't work out. Why didn't it work out? I did this. Well, you didn't do it like this, right? Try again, but try it like that this time. Oh, now it worked. And you're always going to hit plateaus, but by having those feedback loops with another expert, it just makes it, first of all, you're not alone anymore, which for the human condition is just, it feels better. It's just more fun.
Yeah.
To not do things on your own is already a great value. But then again, you bypass so many plateaus so much faster because you have those feedback loops. You're able to integrate so many learnings like 10 times faster without having to experience all the pain. Like we've already done that for our clients, right? They don't have to experience the pain of trying out themselves anymore. We've experienced all that pain, and they can just get the lesson, let's say, without the pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great process.
So thank you, Andreas. So everybody that wants to sign up for the masterclass, please go to the SafeSteps24 webpage, and there is a section on the masterclass. There are still few places left on the May start program. If you need to sign up, please do it before April 2nd. And once it's filled, and then anybody that wants to kind of jump is going to be then pushed to the next one. The dates for those are not known yet, but we really encourage people to join. If you want to try new tricks on how to drive own behavior change and also business culture change in combination, here is a unique option that nobody else has done before. So we are trying something new in order to fix the likelihood of an organization actually being right the first time if they want to try and make a culture change in the quality and EHS space. So sign up. Thanks, Andreas, for the conversation. As always, a pleasure. And really looking forward to having you on the masterclass. Thanks to the audience for listening in, and for those who are not able to have joined the session today, the session is recorded, so everybody can jump on it and then feel free to listen. If you have questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to us at any point in time. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice day, and looking forward to seeing you on the masterclass.
Thank you.